Predictably, Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe from Reform have had a massive falling out. This has been brewing for months now because Rupert Lowe is so popular and Nigel's ego cannot share his toys with anyone.
So that escalated quickly, folks. After months of behind-the-scenes backbiting over Nigel Farage seemingly weakening his policy positions on mass deportations, demography, and even Ukraine joining NATO, Rupert Lowe, Elon Musk's choice to lead Reform UK, went public with his concerns in the Daily Mail. And while many of you will be angry with me for even talking about this, there is now a civil war within the party, and it's the party that leads every major national poll. This is a big deal. On one side, you have Farage, his deputy Richard Tice, the party chairman Zia Youssef. On the other, you have Rupert Lowe and some of those thrust out of the party like Ben Habib and Howard Cox. Not to mention Musk, the world's richest man and a major player in the new Trump administration. So that was an endorsement that, not surprisingly, ruffled Nigel's feathers. Now, I do understand the frustrating thing for most Reform supporters is that you love all of those talented men that I just listed, and you desperately want them to work together. But that prospect is feeling a little bit bleak after this interview by Farage last night. Watch.
Why is Rupert Lowe going public with these comments? There's not something better to be had behind closed doors?
Well, perhaps he wants to be Prime Minister. Most people in politics do. You know that, Harry. Half the House of Commons.
I know you want to be Prime Minister. But
half the House of Commons think they should be Prime Minister.
Have you had a word with him?
His comments are wrong. His comments are wrong. We are making gigantic strides.
Are you told him to wind his neck in then?
No point telling him what to do or what not to do. Fact is, we are making huge strides.
Indeed, Nigel even raised the prospect of Rupert leaving the party altogether, which I think would be madness.
Nigel, I'm going to give you one more go. We're going to have to let you go in 20 seconds, but Rupert Lowe, will he still be a Reform MP by the next election? What do you reckon?
Well, I hope so, but he seems to be taking a tone that says he might not accept us, but there you are. Maybe he'll be...
Thank you, Nigel. You've been brilliant for joining us. Thank you. Don't go away.
He also said Rupert wouldn't have won his Great Yarmouth seat without him. Something former deputy leader Habib says simply isn't true.
If I've got a following out there, that's a good thing. If I hadn't, we wouldn't have won any seats in Parliament at all on the 4th of July.
Including Great Yarmouth, I presume you put in that.
Wouldn't have been a cat's chance in hell, would there? Come on, be honest about it.
So look, I understand the grassroots frustration over this. In fact, it was summed up nicely today by Katie Hopkins, who clearly wants to bang the heads together of these two men and say, sort it out.
Predictably, Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe from Reform have had a massive falling out. This has been brewing for months now because Rupert Lowe is so popular and Nigel's ego cannot share his toys with anyone. What I would say in a few curt words is, decent, ordinary people need a political party they can have hope in. And decent, ordinary people pay their membership fee. They keep turning up. They keep turning out. They don't get rewarded for any of that. They don't get to stand on stages and be applauded. They don't get patted on the back and told they're great guys. They don't get to fly in private jets to go and speak at fancy conferences. So if you don't mind, you two, get inside behind closed doors, duke it out if you have to, but then get back in front together as a line of one and lead this country and give decent people hope in other.
But Isabel Oakeshott, the star journalist partner of Reform's deputy leader Richard Tice, seemed to up the ante in terms of the attacks on Rupert.
When they all start slaying into each other publicly. But do you think that some of the Elon Musk stuff doesn't help, though? We saw, obviously, Elon Musk over Christmas have a bit of a wobble about Nigel. He's been giving huge amounts of backing to Rupert Lowe. Do you wonder whether some of that's gone to his head?
Well, certainly something's gone to Rupert Lowe's head. As I say, you know, a lot of novice politicians get delusions of grandeur when they enter the Houses of Parliament. Something happens to them. You know, I've seen this 1,000 times. You know, people that were really quite nice and normal outside of the Palace of Westminster, and I'm not talking about any particular side of politics here, you know as well as I do, this is a very common affliction. Something happens to them when they get into that rarefied place and they suddenly think that they're king of the world. really sweet, isn't it? Poor little Rupert. He's quite new at politics. He's really new in the House of Commons. And, this is what happens to people who are amateurs at politics, and they become MPs and suddenly they think, yay, look at me. I think I could be Prime Minister. They all do it. Bless him. Nigel has been in this game for decades. He has devoted the best part of his life to the causes that he pursues. He has taken reform to its highest ever position, where it is in real prospect of being part or even running the next government. So I think Rupert just maybe needs to take a little step back and realise that there are 650 MPs in Parliament, and each and every one of them thinks that they could one day be a party leader or a Prime Minister.
Well, he's just been a guest on Harry Cole, my colleague Harry Cole's show just before this, the Drive Time show here on Talk, and his popularity was confirmed. As soon as he comes on, our viewing figures just rocket. I just think that what Mr. Farage should do, Nigel.
So it does feel like the situation is escalating, rather than Team Farage working out the best way to deal with Rupert and actually take some of his legitimate criticism seriously. After all, this is a multi-millionaire businessman with so much to offer to the country. And when he was last here on Outspoken, he made clear he does believe Nigel can become Prime Minister. Now, I was saying back in June, before the election, Rupert, that I believe Farage will be Prime Minister in 2029. You think that too, don't you? You think it is possible for him to win a majority?
I've been saying it for a while, Dan, and some of my friends think I should be taken away in a straitjacket. But they said that when I said I was going to be elected as an MP. Now, I mean, this is an interesting question, this one, because the party's policy is that we should be supporting proportional representation. In a vote the other day in Parliament, I actually went against my colleagues because I think we are better served in the next election having first past the post. If you look at the numbers, if we get a big swing, suddenly and first past the post, you win huge numbers of seats. And as you probably know, we were I think we were 90th, quite a close second in 90 seats. And we were third in an awful lot more. So if we see the polls continuing to favour us, then in first past the post, we actually could conceivably get the kind of majority that we need, which, by the way, Boris had in 2019, which we gifted him, which is needed to start the process of reform. And as I like to say, the Great Repeal Act of 2029 or earlier, if we have an election before then.
God, let's hope it's earlier. So, look, what he wants is he wants the party to professionalise. I don't think that's a bad thing. But look, let me take you through both sides of the argument from senior reform figures. Ben Habib, the former deputy leader, posted, the issues with which Rupert Lowe is grappling are all those with which I had to grapple. If the party had been genuinely democratised, as I've been advocating since before I joined Reform, with checks and balances introduced, this would not have happened. No organisation can succeed on the shoulders of one man. Reform needs broadening and deepening. Rupert is one of the best MPs. For the sake of the country, Nigel Farage needs to reform. But Andrea Jenkins, who's another Conservative defector, said, I do not recognise what has been printed about Nigel. He is incredibly supportive. I only saw him a couple of days ago as we had a campaign meeting. He listens to ideas and has amazing vision and belief in our country. He has decades of political experience and is, in my view, the man to lead Britain. The party is also professionalising, including support and training for all candidates, including council candidates. Reform UK is the party of the brave who is standing up for the silent majority. And look, for the moment, the party remains top of the polls, even though the MSM is salivating over the split. Look at this latest voting intention result from Find Out Now. Reform on 26%, down to Labour up to 25%, the Conservatives steady on 21%. So really, a poll like that should provide motivation enough for Nigel to realise Rupert is a serious asset who he needs to bring back into the fold. Now, alongside Andrea, Marco Longhi, the former Conservative MP for Dudley North, has just defected to Reform UK. He backs Nigel Farage, and he's here now for the uncancelled interview. But first, you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected. Well, I've been increasingly thinking of the need for personal protection from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers online, and I'm delighted to tell you I have now found the fail-safe solution. But what's more, this VPN, or virtual private network to use the full term, is also a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. Let me introduce you to Surfshark, an incredible and easy-to-use service that encrypts all your internet traffic, meaning your online activity stays safe so you can shop, stream, browse, and conduct your banking online in complete privacy. But the benefits of Surfshark go way beyond keeping you safe online. It allows you to access your favorite entertainment and news shows and channels, including to streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, and Peacock. Or if your favorite show is blocked on Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney Plus, within seconds you can be watching as if you're in another country. If you're traveling for work or on holiday, you can also get all your favorite content from home, including sports. And this is an insurance policy against creeping censorship in many countries. For example, France has blocked Rumble for many months now. Watch anything, anytime, anywhere. It's true freedom, which I am here for. Oh, and a VPN can save you money too, because you can get the best deals from websites that change their prices depending on where you're buying from. There are other benefits too. You can use Surfshark on unlimited devices. That means your entire household can stay safe with just one subscription. And with over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries, there is a world of choice at your fingertips with 24/7 customer service if this is your first time using a VPN. Go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. What's more, Surfshark is so confident they're the best VPN in the world that you can give it a try for a full 30 days. And if you're not entirely satisfied, you'll get your money back. Go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. But now, back to the show. Marco, my friend, congratulations on your defection. Firstly, I think it's a brilliant move for you. You're very much a Reform UK man in so many ways. But where do you stand on this quite ugly public row between your leader, a guy who you seem to have a huge amount of respect for, Nigel Farage, and Rupert Lowe, who is one of your party's best performing assets?
So look, Dan, I agree a lot with what Isabel Oakeshott said earlier, and those of us who've been around in politics for many, many years have seen this happen. Sometimes people are elected, a lot of praise is poured upon them. They suddenly feel that the reason why they have won is down to them, when in actual fact, the reason people win is the leader of the day of the party you are standing for, and the presentation this party has sold to the nation, if you like. Now, whilst Rupert, I've never had any personal dealings with him, and he clearly has some very good ideas and policies and suggestions that come forward with that I think a lot of people like. Perhaps one of the things he might consider reflecting on is that, united we stand, divided we fall. And whilst Rupert was busy making his millions and looking after his business, Nigel was the person that was trying to save the country. Nigel was the person who, in previous guises in other parties, was campaigning for Brexit. Nigel was the person that actually delivered the seats for reform. It wasn't Rupert, and I don't mean this disparagingly in any way of Rupert, but Nigel is the person who the very vast majority of reform voters would want to see as the next Prime Minister of this country, and this is what I'm going to do my absolute damnedest to achieve myself. And yes, we hear comments that 650 MPs all want to become Prime Minister. Everybody has an ego, and I was a member of parliament for the best part of 5 years when Boris was elected in 2019. And I can tell you, I'm not one of those 650. I don't want to be prime minister. I want to do the best for my country, and whatever guise that might be. And if one day I got a call that said, Marco, we'd like you to do this or we'd like you to do that, I'd be immensely humbled by it and grateful for it. But I would never, ever describe myself as someone who would be prime ministerial material. I can see that in other people, and I can certainly see it in Nigel, and Nigel absolutely deserves to be.
Can you just talk a little bit about your own defection to Reform UK? Was Nigel personally involved? Because Andrea Jenkins there, our good friend, is making the point that he seems to be very hands-on.
So, as you can well imagine, my thoughts of moving over to Reform have been with me over some years. But, you know, politics is a very tribal business. And I was of a conservative nature, a right of centre, although I suppose right of centre now is very far right, isn't it, by the way media like to describe us, since my teenage years. So you're talking, you know, you're going back 4 decades. And a number of people have said to me, and I think even Nigel might have said, Marco, if you'd have stood for Reform at the election in July 24, you would have still been the Member of Parliament in Dudley.
Oh, you would have?
That could well
without
be true.
any doubt. And Andrea would have been her MP as well.
Without a doubt. And I suppose it's this whole loyalty thing with me. So for me, moving over to Reform was a very easy thing to do, but also a very difficult thing to do at the same time. So I've always been loyal. It's a bit like football, Dan. You know, if your football team happens to go through a couple of years of very bad time, you stick with them. You know, it's this here in the Black Country. You know, you don't jump from the Baggies to Wolves just because you go through a tough patch. That would be heretic. You know, it would be a horrible thing to do. But for me, the scale of the repeated betrayals of the Conservative Party since 2010, when we said we would control immigration, bring it back down to the tens of thousands, and at each parliament that we were involved in, I'm talking about when we were a Conservative Party, we just kept on effectively lying to people. We were letting them down. Either we were incompetent or we lied to people. And so ultimately the country came to a decision which was, you know, the people of this country are never wrong, ever wrong. And the fact that the Conservative Party was booted out in such a gargantuan way in July 24, it's because the party deserved to be out. I remember speaking to my friend Lee Anderson when we were both Tory MPs at the time, and we'd go for a walk sometimes, shaking our heads going, what on earth is going on here? Why are they doing that? You know, I said to Lee, my God, if we continue like this, we're going to lose so badly. We do not deserve to be in government. And that's exactly how it played out. So for me, you know, yes, what would have happened? Had I stood for Reform, that would have meant they would have had to have removed the sitting candidate who'd already been selected. That would have been wrong, and I would not have wanted to do that, clearly. And neither would have I expected Nigel to do that. But more importantly, I still had in my heart and in my head the fact that so many people voted for me in 2019 that I didn't want to let them down. I felt
I
loyalty
understand
to them as well as to the and you know, you might say that was misguided. A lot of people have said, Marco, I voted for you. I didn't vote for the Conservative Party. I had to pinch my nose when I voted for you. A lot of other people conversely said, oh, I had to vote for Reform, Marco. I just couldn't vote for you. It would have been a vote for Rishi. This is the man who didn't bother going to the D-Day celebrations.
Oh, exactly. And now says he should never have said even stop the boats. Can I just ask, Marco, about the Elon Musk situation? Because You remember when he made that famous post on X in early January, the Reform Party needs a new leader, Farage doesn't have what it takes. You actually responded to Musk and you said Reform stands for the values this country was built on: hard work, fairness, and putting British people first. Nigel Farage has created and led Reform's successes. Nigel played a huge role in Brexit and he connects with the British people. He has what it takes 100%. So you still strongly disagree with Elon Musk that Rupert Lowe would be the best leader for Reform UK?
Oh, absolutely. And, this is not showing any disrespect to Elon either. But, we're talking about people in the United States here who sometimes, I've worked and lived in the United States over many years. I have American people who are still friends of mine, and they say, "Oh, Marco, I'm taking a week off. Can I come and visit Europe?" Well, I'm kidding. I'm going like, what? If you wanted to just visit Rome, you wouldn't do it justice if you spend 2 or 3 weeks there. Never mind London, never mind Berlin, never mind, they have an idea of Europe which is very different to what we view Europe as. And they are obviously going through American elections. They have seen Trump come back, and they've got their own national policy, quite rightly, to think about. So when a few tweets come out, or whatever we call them now, X's, come out that might paint one picture rather than another, and then that's all of a sudden seized upon, you can understand somebody perhaps riding with that narrative. And I do believe Elon was wrong in this case to talk about Nigel in that way, because I know what it takes to connect with people. And let me tell you this: Rupert Lowe in 2019 was going to be the Brexit Party candidate standing against me. Now, I did not have a Conservative standing in Dudley, and the deal that was done between Nigel and Boris, as I am, perhaps I could stand to be corrected here. I don't know my history that well, but as I recollect, Nigel decided to stand down all of the Brexit Party candidates where there was a sitting Conservative member of Parliament. At that point, I felt quite aggrieved, because I thought I could do so much better here if I did not have a Brexit Party candidate standing against me. As it happens, I did win by a majority of 11,500, but here's the thing. I know Rupert Lowe stood down. I know why Rupert Lowe stood down. Some of those reasons I am not going to mention here, but other reasons I do know why, is that Rupert would just not have connected with Dudley people in any way, shape or form. He's not a Black Country man. He would not have had the ability to have walked into a pub and spoke to people like I could have, like Nigel could have, like lots of other people could. Now, Rupert does connect with a lot of people and does have some brilliant ideas, and his work rate in Parliament is second to none. So I'm trying to really provide a balanced approach here. But I also know if Rupert is going to be true to his own feelings here, he needs to sit back and reflect upon the fact that whilst he can be a huge asset to reform, the biggest asset by a country mile is Nigel. And I think all of us should be showing the correct amount and appropriate amount of support and loyalty to Nigel as he deserves.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.